Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's special HFTP Europe Hangout at Cyber High Tech. I'm Victoria Schaefer, Senior Membership Manager at HFTP, alongside Carl Weldon, HFTP's Chief Operations Officer in Europe, Ian Miller of the Lausanne Hotel School, and our special guest, Barry Thomas of Rosewood Hotels. Before we begin, I will quickly go over a few items about the format of today's broadcast and the Zoom platform. First, this is a conversation, and your input is important and encouraged. Your microphone is muted at this time to avoid background noise. However, please unmute your microphone at any time by clicking the microphone icon at the bottom left of the Zoom window, or use the chat feature at the bottom of the screen to share your comments and questions. HFTV Hangouts are educational discussions offered in a non-sales environment. Product promotion or sales pitches in the presentation through the chat feature are not allowed. Also, HFTP's antitrust statement has been posted in the chat. We do have a code of conduct, which we require everyone to follow on HFTP Hangouts. We are monitoring the chat box and will call on you to ask your question for the group, or we may ask on your behalf. Our intent is to respond to all questions, but if we cannot, we will try to follow up with a response through email. If you need technical assistance, please submit a chat and we will be happy to help. This Hangout is being recorded, and a link to the recording of the discussion will be available on the HFTP website soon. After Carl's introduction, he and Ian will begin the conversation with some questions to Barry, and we will open things up for discussion towards the end. Again, interaction is encouraged, and we want to have a great conversation. Carl, over to you to start the discussion.
Thank you, Victoria, and hello again, everyone, and welcome. Now, as most of you know, we have created these European Hangouts, especially for our European members and stakeholders, normally every other Wednesday, normally at 3 p.m., but we're an hour ahead in the UK. We're actually an hour behind at 2 p.m. today and 3 p.m. in the Eurozone. And we are set up just in time for our US members early on as they enjoy their morning coffee on the Eastern Central Times. And of course, today, our attendees from our first ever Cyber High Tech welcome. This is our 15th European Hangout. We have a planned program of topics concerned on an internationally wide basis with the aim these conversations and Hangouts will help enrich everybody in the current environment. This is the 6th European Hangout of this season. We do have a planned set of topics, which include taking a holistic view of hotel technology to protect customers, staff and reputation on the 2nd of December. Is the time right to let artificial intelligence help? Crypto, blockchain, future workspace, corporate travel standards for the future, and also retail versus hospitality via the Retail Bulletin. Now, I should point out there are already 8 recordings from our previous European Hangouts via our resources page on our Hangouts website and also on our YouTube channel. This should be a great resource for everybody, especially for students studying hospitality. If, however, any of you do have a topic or suggestion, please do let us know. Now, a slightly different Hangout on December the 23rd. We'll be hosting an informal Hangout with our mini advisory board, including Ian Miller, as mentioned earlier, where we intend to kiss 2020 goodbye. So please do join us for a special with Christmas hats and pullovers will be mandatory. And after that, we'll be taking a break from now until the 2nd of December. Now, today's Hangout is a little different. Apart from being the first ever Europe Hangout within an event, Cyber High Tech, it is also the first ever sponsored European Hangout. And I'm very happy to introduce our first ever sponsor, Mr. Andrew Evans of KeyStep Solutions and Open Door, who would just like to say a few words first. Andrew, over to you.
Thank you, Carl. My name's Andrew Evans. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Chief Executive Officer of KeyStep Solutions. You've probably seen me with our big red door, myself and Tanya stand there with our red door, which we take everywhere with us. And we provide door locking systems across the globe, from the largest airport hotel in Heathrow to 5-star properties in Geneva, anywhere in between, to be quite honest with you. I tell you what, Carl, one thing that's taken me back today is how many people on here I haven't seen for about 12 months. And it's just so sad. Well, it's fantastic to see everybody today, but it just brings it home to you how I'm missing the real events. Carl persuaded me to go to Minneapolis last year to High Tech. I got all the way there, and Carl couldn't be bothered going. So I was wandering around Minneapolis, and And the first thing that greeted me was an English pub next to my hotel. I thought there was a football night going on, but it was an English pub showing soccer. But it was so sad. So it'll be 12 months ago now, and it was just so sad that we can't be there for real. Hospitality is a family, and I think this pandemic has brought it home to us how tight a community it is. And it's been a pleasure to sponsor this Hangout today, because I think without these webinars and these online events, people would have felt so disconnected. But there you go. And I'm just looking forward to hearing about Barry coming to America, Cole.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andrew. And you're right, we do have a close-knit community. So today's Hangout, a little bit more different, a little bit more of a chat over tea and about technology. So we're going to hang out with Barry Thomas. But who is he? Well, he is Senior Corporate Director, Property Technology for the Rosewood Hotel Group. Barry is a CHTP and has been in the industry for some time now. His background and experience in hotels started in 2007 at the Metropolitan Hotel, part of the Como Hotels and Resorts Group, and then IT manager of the very prestigious Claridge's Hotel in London. Staying with the upmarket theme, Barry then opened the Bulgari Hotel and Residences, again in London, before taking over as IT director at the Rosewood Hotel in London, brackets, one of my favorite hotels. Then as Rosewood developed in Europe, he was promoted to area director of technology. He did so well there that after 4.5 years, he was asked to move to Los Angeles in August 2018 to be corporate director of IT for Americas and Europe. And a year later, he assumed his current position. Now, Barry is a London lad, and so he supports a London Premier League soccer team, Crystal Palace, from Southeast London, known as the Eagles. And this may come up later. Barry has been an HFTP member for 5 years now and has earned his CHTP just after that. I first met Barry dressed as either Father Christmas or was it a Chinese chef? I actually can't quite remember. But I really got to know him well when he became first part of the first ever advisory board for High Tech Europe and Amsterdam, which he was in and part of for 3 years. He has since begun to serve on the advisory board for Main US High Tech and Cyber High Tech as deputy chair, and imminently to become an HFTP board member. Now, the reason Barry is here today is that we wanted to discuss the angle of technology in hospitality from across the two sides of the Atlantic. As they say, two countries divided by a common language. What are the differences, if any? And joining me today to ask Barry some questions is Mr. Ian Miller, himself a previous HFTP board member and High Tech Europe advisory board member, and now deputy chair of that. And indeed, he is this year's HFTP Paragon Award winner, which will be awarded to him at the annual business lunch tomorrow. And now we'll chat through with Barry and ask him some questions to gain some thoughts and insights on his experience. Ian, over to you to ask the first question.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you all for attending. So let's get straight on with it. Let's just start with maybe the opener question. So Barry, what differences, if any, do you see in the culture in hospitality technology between Europe and the US?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Congratulations again on your award, Ian, well deserved. So what struck me most and first was a country that speaks the same language is very, very different. I thought moving from the UK over to the US was going to be a breeze and everything was going to work exactly the same. I thought I actually understood technology acronyms, and I come over to the US and they're all different. I think what took me a little bit of time was to really understand the verbiage, the acronyms that are in use over here. Although some are similar, some are different. But the biggest thing was having no network over here. When I first moved over from a close-knit technology network that I built out in Europe to the US, and I had no contact. I was scrambling back, contacting all my European people to try and get contact of their US counterparts. So I think technology is seen the same, but it works slightly differently.
So Barry, have you noticed any difference in the way IT or technology is perceived in the US? For example, operations owners, is there a different relationship? Is there a different approach?
No, and where I'm lucky is by staying with Rosewood. actually a lot of our owners are the same. So I'm dealing with some of the same projects, some of the same owners that I was dealing with before. So we've got to know them. Their understanding of technology is exactly the same as it is in the UK or in Europe, as that is. Where the differences are is really where they want to invest the money, I guess. Is sometimes we're obviously looking to enhance the guest experience. Things work slightly differently.
Ian?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to, if I may just, I'm going to jump a couple of questions and maybe pick up on what Andrew said. With your opening remarks, Barry, you mentioned moving to the US and sort of the network or lack of. How did being part of HFTP help you in that transition? From obviously having the way your established European network and group and over to the US, and again, about this sort of this community aspect, that Andrew mentioned it in his opening part.
Yeah, HFTP has been pivotal in this for me. I think within the first couple of weeks of moving over here, I was invited to join the advisory council for Maine High Tech. That led then to us meeting in Orlando a few months later to start arranging the education sessions for the Maine High Tech. I, at that point, met with 15, 20 industry experts and started rebuilding my network over here. HFTP, for as far as I can remember, the 5 years that I've been a member, has allowed me to grow and develop my professional network. And some of these people now I consider friends. I think, as Andrew mentioned, that the industry is so small and it is very much a family. Having HFTP to support me through this move has really benefited me. The other benefit was staying with Rosewood. If I had changed jobs and moved companies and taken the same move, I think it would have been a lot more difficult of a transition. I knew everyone within Rosewood. I had the support of Rosewood during this time. So from a job perspective, the transition was made easy by the company. From a network perspective, HFTP really did support that and help me through that. I've been able to meet with various members. I've been able to network and really gain insights. Vendors were probably the biggest thing that I didn't have a network of vendors. Rosewood are obviously expanding very quickly at the moment. We have a very strong pipeline, 20 plus hotels that are in development at the moment. So I needed to act quickly. Within a week of getting here, we were preparing to open the Miramar Beach Hotel in Santa Barbara. And we still had contracts to sign. I still had systems to source. And that opening was coming within 9 months of me getting here. So there was a lot of work to do. So being able to reach out to HFTP members to ask them questions about who should I be going with, who should I be speaking to from a vendor perspective has been invaluable.
Okay.
In the middle of everything, of course, in the middle of it, I suppose, the pandemic hit. So there you are in a foreign country, in a new job. How did you manage the change in what I would call work practice, the working from home? You obviously had a team of people in an office that you used to drive to every day, and suddenly everybody's working from home and everything. How did that work out? I'm going to say both personally, but also from the professional point of view of having to manage and distribute all that technology to your team.
So we were, I guess you could say, lucky in one sense. Our corporate office, one of our head offices, is based in Hong Kong, and we've got hotels all throughout mainland China. So the first I heard about COVID was at the end of December. We have a hotel in Wuhan, and I started to hear about this virus, and we were reaching out to the IT manager, trying to understand how he's doing, what's going on, and obviously was being fed back. We gained a lot of insights from our Chinese office, our Hong Kong office as well. So Hong Kong went into lockdown 3 months before we did in Europe and in the US. So what information that they were sharing, the knowledge and the insights that they gained, we were able to transition over to the US quite quickly. One thing that I found, we're a relatively small office based in West Hollywood here. We've got about 40 people that work in the office. People adapted very quickly. What it's also helped us is with technology adoption. Things that may have taken 2, 3, 4 months to roll out and deploy were done within a week. We managed to do a global deployment of Microsoft Teams, which for us as a company has allowed us to be able to communicate effectively and efficiently during this time. Working from home is probably just as efficient, if not more efficient at times than being in the office. Now we miss those face-to-face meetings. We miss that interaction with our peers, but we can be just as effective at home. I'm also saving myself 3 hours of commute every day in LA traffic, so that works. From a personal perspective, it was difficult for the first couple of weeks, maybe 2 months, to adjust to this new routine. My desk moved around the house 3 times and is now in the master bedroom, which is fine as long as I don't have calls before 7 a.m., in which case I have to kick the wife out of bed so I can start. One thing that I've noticed is very much about routine. Working from home is getting up, showering, breakfast, and then get to the desk, and make sure that you have that routine set up. My daughter was born just before the pandemic started, so she's lived half of her life in lockdown. And at the time, my son, obviously, as the pandemic started, wasn't in school. So, you know, there was a lot of adjustments and sacrifices on everyone's side, but we've really made it work. And there's a lot of people in positions where they're not working. So I'm very thankful for us to give us the ability to continue to work. I personally don't feel that industry or any office will ever go back in the same way as it was before. I don't see that we'll be back in the office 5 days a week, 5 days a week, 9 to 5. I think the way people are working, especially in our global roles, allows us to be more flexible with our hours. You know, if you have calls in the morning with Europe, calls in the evening with Hong Kong, gives me some time in the middle of the day. If I have to throw an hour and a half drive into that, it's not as productive.
Okay.
Ian?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to steal 2 questions on the next one. One we actually had come through registration, but Barry, of course, you know, when we were prepping up for this, you need to remember that 2 Brits interviewing a Brit, you know, we obviously had something up our sleeve for you. So we've got a couple of questions you don't know about. And we're going to make the first one quite light and something very important. And again, anyone who's obviously from the UK and relevant to the US. So here's the first question. Bacon sandwich, ketchup or brown sauce?
Oh, ketchup all day long.
Thank you.
No.
You see, Carl, I told you. I told you it's going to be ketchup.
No. It's got to be
So
brown
wrong.
sauce.
Brown sauce all the way.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
exactly. Yeah.
And here we are,
But-
creating division. Very, very good.
Let me ask Barry a quick question in the middle of that, Ian. What do you think of American bacon, Barry?
That's great. It's seriously, I actually like it. American bacon and sausage links for breakfast are great. It's just don't look at the amount of fat that comes out of it. You know, bacon starts this big, ends up like this big because the rest of it's dripping out the pan. But no, I tell you what, I miss sausage rolls and Cornish pasties.
Yes.
This Saturday I actually went. There's a little British shop. It's called Old King's Head in Santa Monica, sorry. And we went down there and we picked up our PG tips, our Tiptree jam, and a penguin. And so, you know, I have what you'd be surprised when needed.
I'll post translations for all of that for those of you in the US later.
And I'm just more upset that Mark Fancourt is suggesting barbecue sauce on a bacon sandwich.
Oh, no. No, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ian,
so
what was
Oh, go on, Carl.
No, over to you. I was going to...
Okay. So we actually had a question coming through registration. And again, this is getting a little bit back to what you said about obviously when Rosewood Group and who you are, and you are expanding. And of course, you know, you're now a global hotel company. One question that came in was, as a strong brand, how do you ensure the property developer / owner in any country is going to involve Rosewood enough to ensure all guest-facing technologies are consistent in rooms and suites? And that was from Richard Newman.
Yeah, so we're quite lucky, and actually this pandemic and this year has been a bit of a reset year for us. We've spent a lot of time working on standards. Rosewood, in the past, obviously we were a US company. We were bought out a number of years ago by a Hong Kong entity, and that's really developed Rosewood Hotel Group as a brand, and it's strengthened it. With the development pipeline we've got, we've realized that we cannot have, I use the term, differentness in our hotels. You know, we've got 20 plus hotels to open in the next 3 years. We're going to be up to 100 hotels within 5 years. And this is something that with a group that I know we're going to get there. And we can't open those amount of hotels if we don't have standards in place. We spent this year revising and redefining our global standards for all things from guest room technology to engineering systems to core applications. And we've then published those. We have our design standards that are updated as well, that are issued to ownership groups from when we engage with them in the initial, prior to even signing the management agreement. The good thing that I've seen here is IT get involved from day one. We're involved from design development through schematic design, construction design. We're reviewing drawings all the way through a project. So my involvement and my team's involvement probably starts 3-4 years before a hotel opens. It's not something that we're brought in last minute. We have a good partnership or a great partnership with all of our owners. We work and collaborate with them closely as we develop the design for the hotel. And our standards are part of that. Now, our standards may evolve over time because, as you say, if we start a project 4 years before we open it, we're not going to specify a particular model of equipment because that's going to change. We want to deliver the best technology to our guests that's the most up to date to provide the best value for our ownership. We don't want to put in equipment that's going end of life and then have to go to our owners again and ask them for reinvestment, for replacement. So it's that balance in that. But we drive things on protocols and standards, manufacturers as such. And our standards are written to say or latest equivalent. Now, it is very much a conversation with ownership. Getting in early does help that process. There are times, and there are some projects when we're doing reflags, and we've got 2 reflags that are coming up this year, the 2021, sorry, with Villa Magna in Madrid and La Guadalajara in St. Bart's, which are existing hotels. So that's very much working with ownership, working with the hotel to build out a plan for transition into our standards. But that might not be from day one. The core systems will be, anything security related will be, but some of the more tactical systems and less strategic and technologies would be deployed in a programmatic way to allow us to achieve compliance with our standards over a period of time.
Barry, can I take a follow-up question on that? Because it's interesting what you said about, obviously great to hear that you're involved so early on in the process, 3 to 4 years. And obviously when you said you're not deciding on exact sort of make and model of equipment at that point, when do you finally say, no, this is now, because we're getting nearer to opening, that we need to make that decision and go with something more precise, a version, make or model, and now the decision is done? When do you cut that off?
Yeah, we will issue a detailed HEOS budget 18 months before a hotel opening. The actual designs we work closely with IT, AV, and security consultants throughout a process. The actual design will evolve and develop and will probably normally be completed again around 18 months before the hotel opens. Structured cabling happens before because we need to make sure that the structured cabling design's in place before they start pouring concrete, putting ceilings up, etc. Actual make and models of equipment, I would say, is probably 8 months. We will be placing orders 8 to 12 months before the hotel opens. We have a 12-week handover period where everything needs to be handed over to us as an operator prior to a hotel opening. So all systems will go live and we work back from there. So we very much take the proposed opening date of a hotel and work back based off of our critical paths that we create. So it's normally 8 to 12 months. We'll be selecting vendors, negotiating contracts, working with our partners as such. We have standards that we're working to. So we're not going to go out to market necessarily and speak to 15, 20 different vendors for this. We have a good idea of what we will be putting in these hotels.
Barry, let's talk a little bit about your involvement with HFTP. Obviously, you worked with myself for 3 years on the High Tech Amsterdam Advisory Board. You were involved with the E20X a couple of times as a judge on that. Who first brought you into the world of HFTP?
I think when I first got into hotels, again, as you mentioned, it was the Metropolitan. It's great to have Jeremy on the call today. He was the first person that hired me into hospitality. So you can either thank him or curse him that I'm in this industry and say Jeremy's on the call, and it's great to see you. So I first got into hotels at Como, and high tech was the thing that everyone wanted to go to. You know, being based in the UK and Europe, high tech was a show that everyone knew about. At that point, I didn't know much about HFTP, if I'm honest. It was more high tech, and it's run by these people called HFTP. As my career evolved in hospitality, what I found was there was no, or what I couldn't find to start with, was there was no real education for hospitality technology. There was a lot, if I wanted to be a general manager, I wanted to go and do a food service award, but hospitality technology I felt was missing. And as I started to get to know yourself through Hosper, and I got to know the likes of the 14 IP guys, etc., they started talking more about HFTP, and I started to see a little bit more. And Rosewood had an involvement as well with HFTP. And at one point, we did a global initiative that all Rosewood IT managers needed to certify for CHTP. And I remember meeting Frank at a Hosper event. It was around Christmas time, and I think it was Frank that was dressed as Santa or Father Christmas at that time. And I remember saying to him that I'm frustrated. I want to get involved. I want to be part of HFTP. I will do my CHTP, but it's very difficult. There was no chapter in London. There was no chapter in the UK. I think the closest chapter was in the Netherlands. And this was, I think, just before you assumed your position as COO. And, you know, he said, yeah, we're working on plans. You know, we're looking at international expansion and the ability for people to get involved, because I was the IT manager of a single property. I didn't have travel budget to travel to high tech. It was very difficult to justify at that time. And then as you mentioned, I got promoted to an area role, and that then became more of a reason to travel. We had 2 hotel openings in Europe with Castellón del Bosco and Hotel de Crillon. So visiting high tech as a show made a lot of sense. As I go back to Rosewood make initiative for CHTP, going through that process was the best education I've done. It's the best certification I hold. And I honestly feel the CHTP is more valuable than an MCSE or an Azure certification, because it really got me to understand the hotel. You know, I was an IT guy working in a hotel. The CHTP helped me become a hotel guy working in IT. I spent time working with revenue. I spent time working with finance team to understand the difference between the guy that sat on this desk and the girl that sat on there, rather than just being AR and AP. Because the CHTP really allows you to understand the operation of a hotel and how technology influences that and impacts it. Something that we want all of our IT directors and IT managers to do now is to be business partners to the hotels. We're not looking for people that are going to sit in server rooms all day and fix stuff. We want our team to be business partners. We want our team to be collaborators with the different divisional leaders. And I feel the CHTP and HFTP help us do that, because we're not just looking at technical requirements. We're looking very much about the impact that technology plays.
Fantastic.
Can I just, sorry, Carl, if I may.
Go ahead, Ian.
Just pick up a question on that, because obviously what you mentioned earlier, again, due to COVID, you know, and you weren't taking months to deploy, you were taking weeks. And obviously what we've all seen in our world is the dependency or the advancement of, using the phrase, digital transformation due to COVID. Have you noticed that the owners and the other divisions and people in Rosewood are now even more demanding of you guys and what you do?
So it's a very good question, and it's very timely as well. We've been very, very lucky with the support of our ownership team. Our CEO, Ms. Sonia Cheng, has supported technology throughout this pandemic. And instead of cutting back, we've doubled down on technology. Very much we see, and we use the term digital transformation as Lyle and Nick were talking about yesterday, it's the new big data, it's the new cloud computing, it's the new word that everyone's talking about. But true digital transformation is what's happening at the moment with Rosewood. Micah Friedman, our CIO, come in on board around a year and a half ago and has driven that through our organization and is leading the charge. At a corporate perspective, we're transforming our core financials at a corporate level. We're building a platform for a guest profile, a single guest profile across all of our properties, an enhanced digital guest experience that we're deploying. And the support of our ownership and the support of our CEO has allowed us to do that. And the reason we're doing that is because that's the vehicle for recovery. If we hold all of our technology investments at the moment, when things recover, and they will recover, and people will travel, we need to be ahead of the game, because there's going to be a lot of customers and that we're going to be trying to acquire, the same as all of the other hotels in the industry. So what we've done is taken the advantage of this situation and looking at it as not necessarily as a positive, but certainly as an opportunity. And this has given us the opportunity to complete some major transformation projects, stuff that this company has never seen. And that is what's setting us up for recovery in the future. That and the hotel deals that we're announcing. You know, in the past 5 months, we've announced 4 new openings that we're going to be doing, which is something that, you know, is some positive news in these trying times. You know, we announced Rosewood. If we talk about Europe, and I know this is a European hangout, we announced Rosewood Amsterdam a couple of weeks ago. We've got St. Bart's, which, although it's in the Caribbean, is a French territory. We've got Villa Magna that's coming, Munich, etc. Venice, Vienna. These are all projects that are coming that are exciting for us, and they are the ones that are going to allow us to continue to grow as a company. And the digital transformation, the core infrastructure that we're deploying at the moment, is what's allowing us to do that.
Barry, talking about some of the recent changes, you've been involved with us in Europe for 3 or 4 years and helped us start at High Tech Europe. You've gone to the States, you've then gone on to the High Tech US board, and that all seems very straightforward. You know what you're doing, and all of a sudden we have to move first High Tech from June to October, and then we have to pivot that completely. To use a phrase, we were talking about how great a job Brian and the team at HFTP have done of creating cyber high tech. But in the middle of that, you and Justin have had to work and completely change the whole education sessions and how they are produced. How have you found that experience?
Well, first I thought I broke high tech. You know, my first year on US High Tech Advisory Council as co-chair or deputy chair, and yeah, we had to postpone it for the first time in 48 years. It didn't happen in June, so yeah, I'm not taking full responsibility, but some may have been saying that I broke High Tech. No, look, the guys Brian and Millicent and everyone, Frank and everyone at HFTP have done an amazing job of putting this event on. Justin and I, we're just there to assist this process on the education sessions, and the whole High Tech Advisory Council have been great. You know, there was a lot of times where we had ideas of what might happen, but we wasn't sure. And everyone wanted High Tech to happen in San Antonio in June. And we really were pushing for that to happen. And then obviously it moved into October. And again, we were confident that this is something that was going to happen. And unfortunately, it couldn't. And the brave decision was taken to pivot this to cyber. This is the first time it's been done. You know, no one knew exactly how it was going to play out, and I think they've done an amazing job. The combining it with annual convention is a stroke of genius. Is bringing in the registrations. There's a great education session and program that's been put together by both councils. I think they've done an amazing job. The hard work that's been put in. What I love that it actually is a benefit over the physical in-person high tech is I now not going to miss a session. Every high tech I sit and there's 2 sessions I want to attend education wise, and I want my CPEs, and I'm looking and I'm torn between the 2. So with the content being available for the next 30 days, I'm going to see everything. and it's going to make maintaining my CHTP a lot easier this year as well, because there's 47 education hours or points that are available, give or take. And Brian, correct me if I'm wrong on that. It's around that number, by attending both. So, I'm not missing anything. I think the platform is working well. It's great to see the number of people, 84 people to listen to me moving from the UK to the US is amazing. And I think well done to everyone at the team, and well done for everyone attending as well. I think it's great to see people, as Andrew mentioned at the beginning, it's 12 months since anyone's last event. It's been very difficult. This is exactly what we need. And I actually feel it's the right timing. October is a great month to do this. It's been a long year. I think everyone's just looking forward to networking. The Venza after show party was great yesterday. The comedy, I know there's more going on, and it feels weird not to be there in person. But it's also great to have a 7 a.m. Session and not everyone's hungover.
Thank you, Barry. Absolutely. We must make a note to our marketing team, I think, Victoria, to write up that Barry broke high tech as part of the write-up, I think. Yeah. Ian, have you got another question for our Barry?
Yes, I've got a more remark. It's lovely to see that the chat is getting back to some normality, because there was way too much baking going on in the first part.
Yeah, we should point out that barbecue sauce is not an option with a bacon sandwich. For those of you responding to the unofficial poll we appear to have going on. Ian, back to you. Sorry.
Okay, so Barry, your next trick question is Barry mentioned that. Carl mentioned in the intro. Barry is a supporter of a football team called Crystal Palace. And as you can see behind me on my screen, I'm a supporter of a team called Brighton. And I remember, Barry, if you remember, we were sat in the Melly Hotel having a beer after advisory meeting when this came to light. And basically, Brighton and Palace had the greatest rivalry. We fundamentally hate each other.
I've had to break them apart, yeah.
Yes. So my question to you, Barry, is the following. Crystal Palace's biggest loss was, how many goals did you lose by and to who? And if you know the year, that would be amazing.
I want to say 9-1 to Liverpool, but I don't know the year.
Okay, good shout. It was Liverpool. You did concede 9 goals, but it was 9-0.
Ow.
And it was 1989.
1989.
So close. Very close.
Barry, we've got a whole load of people in the vendor industry to the industry here, listening here from Cyber High Tech and other places. Now, having worked on both continents, what advice would you give to, shall we say, a USA hospitality technical company wanting to move their product to Europe, or even the other way round?
Yeah, I think it almost goes along the line of when I moved over here. It's all about the network. You need to do your homework, because you may have the best products around, but if people don't know about it, it's going to be very difficult to get it out into the market. It's going to be very difficult to get it into people's hands, whether that be a SaaS solution or whatever it may be, a physical guest room technology product. It's going to be difficult. So understand what the requirements are. As I said earlier, things work slightly differently. No, you need feet on the ground. The nature of our industry, as everyone knows, it is a family industry. It's very small. Everyone knows everyone. From a vendor perspective, when we look at new technologies, we tend to go to our peers and say, oh, have you heard about this company? Is anyone using that? What are your thoughts on it? So you need to sort of expand. If you're a UK company coming to the US, or a US company coming to Europe, get out there, get meeting people, build those relationships first before the products come. Because I think that people are always going to use references. Everyone knows someone in the industry, and rightfully or wrongfully so, they will refer to those to say, what do you think? So I think it's very much about relationship building, and then start unveiling the products.
Fantastic. So Ian and I have got one or two more questions. I'm going to ask Barry one more now, but if you've got a question for Barry, pop it on the chat, and we'll give you a shout out to ask Barry the question. Barry, if you could be in Europe right now, personally rather than probably professionally, what one place would you like to be right now?
I guess I should be saying that, like, sitting at home with the family. It's been a long time since we've seen the family because of the pandemic. We've not been able to travel, but I think it would be. I miss my Fridays in the pub, and I know that sounds really bad, but LA just because everyone drives, there is no pub culture, and it's not about sitting getting drunk. It's just the after work beer, the Friday after work, 2 pints before you get on the train to go home. That was the most difficult, not difficult, but it was a big change. You know, working in hotels, everyone's very sociable, so it was something. It was part of my week. It was Friday, a couple of pints in the pub, and then home, and that doesn't happen over here. So I miss that.
Yeah, I can imagine. There's a few Australians in the audience agreeing with you. Okay, let's have a look at some of the questions. Good morning, Barry. What are the plans for Rosewood, Sao Paulo, Brazil? Is the opening date already planned?
The opening date will be 2021. We're working very hard on that project. It's going to be an absolutely amazing project. It's our first hotel in South America. It is a stunning design. The property itself is built on the site of an old maternity hospital. So it's got a lot of connection with the locals because most people in the area were actually born there. It's going to have art studios, recording studios. It's very much in keeping with the culture as well. As I say, the construction is advanced. We're working very hard. Networks are being deployed at the moment. We're making good progress, and we recently hired our local IT guy to be down there, who will be starting in January, and looking forward to pushing that one forward and opening. It's a really exciting project for us.
There's been a few comments, Barry, about your thoughts on Friday evenings in the pub, and one of your ex-friends in a business called Red Carnation has said, "Sure, Barry, 2 pints." Okay.
I don't know. I'm not sure who's going to be watching this recording later. So yes, it's only ever 2 pints.
Yeah, thanks. Fantastic. So we've got a few Australians who, as you know, can be quite vocal in the audience. Mr. Mark Fancourt, who's telling us all about various places to get pasties. But he's asked a very specific question here. He says, Barry, Rainbow Room, Saddle Ranch, or Comedy Store?
Comedy Store.
There you go. There's your answer, Mark. Okay. Let's have a look. What else have we got here?
Carl, could I actually take a comment by Steve and actually swing it for a question to Barry?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Ian.
So Steve Erasmo Hilton, thank you for your comment, Steve. And you mentioned that when you're doing anything globally, be aware of local countries' fiscal regulatory requirements. I mean, one example just seen in France now, there's a thing called NF252 for POS systems. How do you, Barry, when you're looking and you spend all these great destinations you've spoken about, Vienna and Venice and Sao Paulo and St. Bart's, how do you look at that in a way, I'll call it compliance aspect? What's the process you go through in Rosewood?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Steve. So we work closely with the local experts on this. This is something that, as you can imagine, as we're developing our Rosewood Sao Paulo project, the fiscal regulations in Brazil are strict. We're having to the extent of the millwork that we're installing our point of sale stations in has to change because we have to install more equipment in our Sao Paulo project than we would anywhere else. There's additional boxes, they're called SAP boxes, and they transmit the fiscal receipts directly to the government or the local governments. And so we really have to be aware of all of these regulations early on in the project. Our managing directors that come on board quite early. We work closely with the local director of finance business partners, and we also have a strong legal team as well, so that are reviewing all these local regulations for each site. You know, St. Bart's, as I mentioned, although it's a Caribbean island, follows the French fiscal regulations as well. Mexico, we've got 4 hotels in Mexico, 3 hotels in Mexico, with another one on its way. And they have strong fiscal regulations as well. So it's really understanding those early on. We definitely don't want to be caught out by surprise, because we need to understand what equipment, and Steve, I know if we talk about point of sale here, if we don't understand what equipment we need to place when we're designing the structured cabling, we're going to be missing power and data. And as anyone that's ever opened a new hotel knows, we definitely do not want to be having to pull new cables into hotels just before opening. You know, when ceilings are done, floors are done, that's the end of it. So we really do need to understand those local regulations early on in a project and work to those. Now, our vendor partners, and I use the term partners in meaningly because they truly do partner with us, also provide advice on this kind of thing for us. You know, we don't go at it alone. We work with the network of people we have.
Okay, great. Barry, we've got a very in-depth personal question from one of our ex-presidents of HFTP, our friend RP. He wants to know, who is your favorite cricketer, and do you still remember cricket?
I do. And I would have to say, and I'd have to say Freddie Flintoff. And our cat is actually called Freddie, named after Freddie Flintoff. So, you know, I think he's maybe not achieved as much as some people, but I think during my time of watching cricket and getting into cricket, I think that Freddie is really one that sticks out for me.
I'm sure some of the Australians will know of him in the past, perhaps, don't you think? Ian, have we got another question that you can see there for Barry?
That's it about a question. And again, thank you, Steve, for all your input. You said, how to speak to anyone on this, about this sort of the vendor partnership relation that could actually make maybe for a really interesting session for the next high tech on how do you do that on a global one and deal with all the fiscal and compliance levels. So I mean, we've got sort of another 5 or so minutes. Is there anyone who's on the call who is currently muted? Derek, please stay muted. Who would like to unmute themselves and ask Barry a question while we have him before I'm sure he wants to run off and have a really strong coffee.
Andrew, our sponsor, Andrew Evans from Keystone. Andrew, have you got a question for Barry?
I'd like to ask Barry. I can imagine Los Angeles is just amazing. And what have you missed doing, or what would you like to do for the first time once the lockdown restrictions are removed?
LA is amazing. There's certainly no. It's a city though. It's a very big city. For anyone that's been here, will realize that everything takes an hour to get to minimum. Even if it's 10 minutes, like if it's 10 miles down the road, it takes an hour because of traffic. Eating out has been a challenge a little bit, with the restaurants closed or down to 25% capacity. What the advantage, I guess, is that a lot of the restaurants have opened up their car parks for dining, so they've set tables out outside, but that's a little bit hot. We've recently had 48 degrees in Woodland Hills where I live, probably 3-4 weeks ago. So it's a little bit hot to sit outside for your lunch. So I think going out and eating, but California actually as a state has done a very good job of the way it's opening up post-COVID. So there's not a lot that I can't do that I want to do, if I'm honest. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Somebody wants to know, Barry, has traffic improved in any way since COVID?
It took me 28 minutes to get into the office this morning. It would normally take an hour and 28. So
I seem to remember a conversation you and I had where you said you suddenly realized there actually was a view on one of your drives in that you'd never noticed before.
Yeah. I tell you what, my drive in to work to the office, I live 20 miles, but I live in the valley. My drive in without traffic is amazing. You know, it's a little bit on the freeway, but then I get into the canyons. I'm driving down Mulholland Drive in the canyons, hit Beverly Hills, through Beverly Hills and into the office. So the commute, the drive is a stunning drive when there's no traffic. What I noticed actually when COVID first happened, or not first happened, but was the restrictions and the lockdown were first put in places, there was no cars on the road. There was literally nothing. And as the weeks went on, you get more and more. And we're back to some level of normality now.
Ian, one last question for Barry from yourself.
One last question from Barry from myself. Ooh, I can't make it football related.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, you don't know anything about football, obviously.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, that's harsh, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, Barry. Go on.
Yeah, I was just actually going to leave it over to the audience. So there's one final one come in. Any major supplies, or major suppliers you hear about that are impacting your hotels, or for construction, or sort of basic lack of supplies, or maybe problems in supply chain for that part?
From a supply chain perspective, what we struggled initially with was laptops. And I think everyone probably experienced the same. We had a lot of people that were transitioning from working in the office to working from home. And we obviously had a level of stock that we could share and we could distribute, but we needed new laptops, and lead times that are normally next day, 3 days to get a laptop were being quoted out at about 8 weeks, which was, yeah. And Mark, I've just seen webcams as well. Webcams and laptops are the most difficult things that we struggled to get. We were very lucky, again, because of the experiences we learned from our office in Hong Kong. We knew what we would need to get hold of. We were sourcing, and our CEO's brother actually started manufacturing face masks and distributing those to people in Hong Kong free of charge. And so face masks was something we managed to import over from Hong Kong, which was very good. So we could distribute those to the hotels, to our staff, to ensure everyone was safe at the start of this. So not really delays with supply chain, if I'm honest, laptops, webcams, but from a cleaning supply perspective, the hotels actually didn't suffer. Face masks we were on top of, which was really good. We introduced our commitment to care, which was our updated and refined cleaning processes and I guess social distancing processes for our hotels. As the hotels slowly reopened, we had all of the supplies to ensure that our guests feel safe and comfortable. They're all issued little care packages that come with hand sanitizer, face masks. So, what we're providing to the guests allows them to feel safe as well and clean. So we've managed to source those without too many problems.
Barry, and Ian, I'd just like to say a huge thank you for being part of this event. Barry, for coming in early, driving all the way to the office. Absolutely fantastic, my friend. Great to see you. Ian, despite your backdrop, thank you very much for being part of this and putting the questions. I'd just like to say thank you as well to the HFTP team behind the scenes, Victoria and Barb, for setting this all up. Thank you very much. And I'd just like to, before I hand back to Victoria, just remind you that we will be live on Hangouts next on Wednesday, the 2nd of December. We're giving the whole month so you can get all of that, all that content that Barry was talking about on cyber high tech. But we will be here on Wednesday, the 2nd of December at 3 p.m. UK time, 10 in the morning Eastern and 9 Central. And we will be here even if you're not camera ready. The topic on that day, the 2nd of December, will be taking a holistic view of our hotel technology to protect what is important, customers, staff and reputation, with Callum of Mackindo of Info. I would also like to say a big thank you to my friend Andrew Evans, all the way from Derbyshire, for sponsoring today. Thank you, Andrew, Key Step and Open Door. And I'll look forward to seeing you through the red door sometime soon, Andrew. Victoria, over to you.
Well, thank you, everybody. And thank you, Barry and Ian. And we appreciate you taking the time of your schedule to attend today's European Hangout. As Carl said, on Wednesday, the 2nd of September at 3 p.m. UK time, the registration link will be up very soon for that. Also, Cyber High Tech is still live today and tomorrow with all the best aspects of high tech, keynote speakers, education sessions, sourced by the Cyber High Tech Advisory Board in a great hospitality technology exhibition. Come by and see me at the HFTP booth in the exhibit hall. And this closes today's HFTP Europe Hangout. Thanks, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody. Lovely to see you all.
Have a great day, everyone.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Carl.
Bye-bye.